Alright, today we're going to be making a very traditional Braciole. It's going to be one of my favourite Italian dishes. Absolutely love it. Very rich tomato sauce, and we're going to have a lot of strong flavours inside the meat itself, and that will really bring out some of the roastiness of the beef we're using. We're not using expensive meats, so this is a dish that anybody can prepare on any budget. So we obviously need to start with a very traditional Italian sauce. Now the difference that I'm going to introduce here is, instead of making this so much of a sweet sauce using basil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use coriander, give it a bit of pep. So we obviously start off with some fresh tomatoes. We just want to pip those, get rid of that nasty green shell there, water them up, skin them as best you can. Not a necessity. If you don't mind tomato skins, just get rid of those little green things there. If you don't mind tomato skins, just go for it. You don't need to do this next step. It'll probably make the whole process a lot easier. Get that out of the way. Breadboard keeps swinging. Actually, just stop it for a sec. Okay. So obviously we're just going to start making a very traditional tomato sauce. For that I use maybe 4 whole tomatoes, depending on how many people you want to serve. This will probably serve about 4 to 6 people. Remember, Italians don't actually eat a lot of meat in their main sittings. Now, a lot of people spend a lot of time skinning their tomatoes. I personally don't find it a necessity. I think the tomato has a nice amount of bitterness in it. So what I typically do is just cut it into quarters, actually into 8ths, and then I'll give it a rough chop from there. Beautiful ripe tomatoes. Nowadays you can get them at any time of the year. You don't need to worry about seasonal ingredients so much with a lot of the Italian foods. Alright, now we just give these a rough chop and we're good to go. Super messy. As rough as you like, really doesn't matter. The only reason why we chop these up at all is to let them break down a bit quicker. You don't want to be standing over a tomato sauce for 6.5 hours. Alright, so once we're done with those, what we're basically going to do is throw them into a hot skillet. Good amount of olive oil. You get it nice and hot first, basically so we don't go. All we want to do is just throw that into a nice hot skillet. Good amount of olive oil. Italians love their... Go. Alright, we're going to get that into a nice hot skillet. Good dose of olive oil. Italians love their olive oil. Easy to see why. Basically just get those tomatoes in there. They'll start sizzling soon. Good amount of pepper. Good amount of salt. They're fine to go. Now, the essential ingredient for any Italian sauce is, of course, garlic. This isn't going to work, man. Really shuffling the thing like this. I have to find it. Go. Now, of course, the most essential ingredient for any Italian sauce is a good amount of garlic. Now, I don't like to put that in the oil first because what that basically does is, what we'll often see happen is, we'll burn the garlic. This sauce is going to simmer for a couple of hours, so we don't really need to be too fussed about cutting up the garlic too fine. Basically, the stronger the taste, blah 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 blah. The stronger you want, the more garlic taste you want, the finer you cut your garlic. We don't really care so much that we have a pungent amount of garlic in here, so I'm going to give it a nice rough chop. Go. So the tomato's starting to cook. We want to get our garlic ready now. Basically just smash the clove, cut off the end. Should be able to peel that skin off nice and easy. Smashing the garlic also lets some of its aroma get out there. Beautiful. 3 cloves for this ought to do it. Nice big dissolve and turn into almost a paste once this dish is done. Next off, I want to get my coriander in there. A lot of people will throw garlic in at this point. This coriander's already been washed. A lot of people use basil at this point. It's something I typically would do, but with Braciole, I like to keep a nice bitterness to it. I find that it really complements the French goat milk cheese. Oh. I find that it really complements the goat milk cheese. Don't chop your herbs too finely. It's a big mistake. You want nice, rustic, wholesome chunks in there. Nothing better. You can smell that freshness. Most importantly, I know I don't have to tell you this, never use dried herbs. It's the absolute sin in Italian cooking. Come back to our sauce. Give it a nice stir. What we're basically doing here is we're putting this sauce to bed. We want to let it simmer. We want to let all those flavors fuse together. At this point, a little bit more pepper, a little bit more salt, a little bit more heat will not hurt. And of course, the only thing that comes behind garlic in a good tomato sauce is a good dash of red. I like to get it in there nice and early, at least a cup for this dish. Beautiful. Go. Now we've got our sauce taken care of, it's simmering there beautifully. We're going to start getting our... Now we've got our sauce... Wait. Go. Now we've got our sauce taken care of, it's simmering over there beautifully. We're going to take care of our meat. What I've got here is some beautiful goat cheese from France. I'm also going to use parsley as one of the other key ingredients for the centre. Tiroler bacon, which is from a province... I'm also going to be using Tyroler bacon, which is from a province of Austria, as well as some very nice anchovies, anchovy fillets. Love them. Guess I want to be getting in there a bit faster. Let me try something else there. For our filling, we're going to be using a beautiful French goat cheese as well. I'm going to be using Tyroler bacon. It's a beautiful bacon from a province in Austria. Nice, strong, but delicate flavours, as well as good old anchovies. Can't live without them. Basically, we're going to make a paste. Basically, we're going to make a very strong flavoured paste. We like to go. With this dish, it's imperative that you use very strong flavours for the meat. The flavours of the tomato are going to somewhat dissolve those flavours. Don't worry. Use a blue cheese if that's what you like. A gorgonzola works beautifully as well. I'd actually say don't go for anything more subtle than a goat cheese milk. I'd actually say don't go for anything more subtle than goat cheese. Stronger cheeses, you're going to be great. Start off with our parsley. It's washed parsley. We just want to chop that roughly because we are going to get it in and give it a good crushing. Say a good 70 to 100 grams of goat cheese. Doesn't have to be imported, any goat cheese will do. Happen to like the French goat cheese a little more because you just get that creaminess from it. A couple of anchovy fillets. I'll say that again once I've got them out of the thing. Few anchovy fillets just to taste. I don't know about you guys, but I love anchovies. A little bit of salt in there, not too much because we do have the anchovies in there. Generous amount of pepper. Now the fun begins. What I do is basically get in there and crush these flavours together. It may take a little while. What you're basically going to see is all of these turn into a beautiful paste. Need to clean it up a bit, huh? This is actually too small for the amount that I'm trying to do. Should I take some out? No. Let's see. This is hard work. What you want to do about halfway through, let's get a bit of olive oil in there. Help break down that cheese a bit.
Left hand, left hand.
Really work it. We're almost there. We don't need this to be a blended paste. If we wanted it blended, we could have put it in the blender. We're just looking to amalgamate those flavours. this may look messy, guys, but trust me, it's worth it in the end. Basically, just want to... So we've got those flavors, right? No, forget that. And really, all you're looking for is something that you can spread. Don't mince this thing until it becomes a puree. It's the worst thing you could do. Okay. Right. Now we're going to start preparing our meat. What I like to buy is a good cheap cut, no embarrassment here, round steak. Look at this, beautifully cut. This is exactly what you want for Braciole. This is the thickness you want. You want about 1/8 of an inch. Just cut it roughly 4 inches by 4 inches will do you fine. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit wider or a little bit longer. Get out your roll of bacon ready. Smell this stuff. Absolutely delicious. Now this is not a beauty contest. All we need to do is get those flavors in there and get them to stay in there. What I do, just get a good amount of filling here. A few pieces of Braciole bacon. It's that easy. Roll it up. Now at this point, a lot of people you'll see will start jamming toothpicks through it. I can't stand it. The flavors will come out of the meat. It's expected to do that. But when they're coming out, they're going to be flavoring that meat beautifully. Okay. Get a couple of pieces of bacon in there. Doesn't need to fit perfectly. Wrap that up. That's it, you're done. Don't worry about a toothpick. A lot of people will use a toothpick. I find it annoying. It's very hard to fry the Braciole. Move on to the next one. A little bit of filling in there. A couple of pieces of bacon. Place them in there. Doesn't need to be neat. Roll it up. It's that easy. Now a lot of people think that this dish is something that's really tricky. It's really not. It's a very easy dish. Cut out pieces. This dish is not intended to be prepared as anything other than a very rustic, rich, wholesome Italian dish. Serve this to your future in-laws. You'll be in the good books forever. A little bit of filling. This is not good, man. I have to keep reaching across you for the bacon. A couple of pieces of bacon. Just roughly put them in there. Once they're in place, they'll stay there. On to the next one. Now really, use your filling to taste. If you're a person who really enjoys strong flavors, remember all of this is going to come out, not all of it, sorry. Remember, a lot of these flavors are going to come out, and go. Remember, a lot of these flavors are going to come out into your sauce, so use as much as you expect to taste in your sauce. A couple of pieces of bacon. It's that easy. Roll it up, it's ready to go. On to the next one. Bit of filling. You don't need a measuring cup. You don't need a measuring spoon for this. Everything's to taste. Roll it up. Don't worry about a toothpick. A lot of people you'll see will be throwing toothpicks around. I think it makes it a nightmare to fry the Braciole. Basically, you want to keep it as simple as possible. Get a shot of that, man. As I take a piece, actually. Something like that. Yeah?
Yep. And go.
Yeah, sorry. Go. Take a piece of your meat, lay it out flat, a little bit of filling, always to taste. A couple of pieces of Tiroler. Don't need to use Tiroler. A lot of people like to use prosciutto. I find that the Tiroler's got a bit of a rounder flavour. Plus, once again, well, let's be quite honest here, it is a cheaper meat. You're not going to pay $6. Oh, stupid. Bit of Tiroler in there. Roll it up. That's all there is to it. Lay your meat out. Lay your meat out nice and flat. We've got just enough here. Pieces of Tiroler in there. Fold it in, doesn't need to be anything pretty. Roll it up and we're good to go. Now we've just got to braise off these beautiful pieces of meat. Go. Here's our meat, we're ready to go. All we've got to do is simmer it off nicely now and then add it back to the sauce. It's going to be great. Our meat's ready, it's been prepared, it's going to be beautiful. Now we're just going to check on our sauce. We're going to add a bit of tomato paste. Always helps. Okay. At this point, you don't want to forget about your tomato sauce. Let's check on it. What we're going to do at this point is we're going to give it a nice scoop of tomato paste. Always helps. Always helps in getting that. Wasn't good, huh? Because I was covering it. Let me get that out. Just don't focus on my hand. Okay, so what am I saying here? I need to prep what I'm saying.
So you just start like from the, say, okay, so our sauce is going well. As you can see, it's broken down, or whatever you want to say. We're now ready to put in some, we need to add some, you know, concentrate to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you can
wait, when I say. And go.
Our sauce is doing beautifully over here. As you can see, those tomatoes have started to break down. The garlic as well. What we need to do now is concentrate those flavors. To do that, a little bit of tomato paste. Once again, another ingredient that I like to use to bring out a little bit of bitterness to the tooth is beautiful for this dish. Stir that in. Oh, the smell of those fresh herbs is absolutely divine. Just cover that once again. Now we got a problem. Sauce has been beautifully simmering for about 45 minutes now. We're ready to take it off the heat. It's only the first stage of cooking for this. As soon as we introduce the meat, it's going to go back on for about another 40 minutes. Let's get it off. Do you want to come around this side? All of those flavors have fused together beautifully. That sauce alone you could toss with a nice strong pasta. This sauce alone you could toss with a nice bold pasta, something that would really hold it in place. Be beautiful. Bit of parmesan, beautiful. Okay, I gotta go. So we separated our tomato sauce. Just put that to the side for now. What you want to do is get a pan, medium heat. These Braciole pieces. what you want to do is get a pan, medium heat, not too hot. These braciole pieces can be a little bit delicate, so we've got to nurture them a bit. Some plain flour, good amount of salt, fair amount of pepper, piece by piece. Okay, cut.
We need to wait for that to heat up.
Okay. So you give it a good roll around in the flour. Look at that, nice and evenly coated. Doesn't need to be perfect. The flour is just going to tenderize that meat a bit when it starts to sizzle. Place it in there very gently. Remember the next one? Nice even coating. What I like to do, just to seal it off, get the open side and put that down first. Get that frying first. Another thing the flour is going to do is it's going to thicken our sauce a bit when we add that sauce back in. The flour can cause one. What you don't want to have happen is burn the flour. So we're going to cook it on medium heat. These will only take 5 or 10 minutes. These will only take 10 minutes. 5 on either side. You don't need to panic if they start to open. Somewhat expected. What you're going to find is that this beef is going to take on a very aromatic flavour. It's going to be very tender because it's so thin and it's rolled, and the flour basically tenderizes it further. Remember, watch the heat. All we want to do is get the meat in there, nice even coating. Doesn't need to be perfect, don't worry about the ends. Just worried about that initial roll. Get it in there with the others. And the next one. You know, a lot of people think this dish is something that you really need 3 or 4 hours of preparation time, and it's not the case. This is really a dish that you can knock up quite easily in 2 hours. You know, of that 2 hours, at least 45 minutes is waiting time. We're done with our flour. All that's left now is to get these beauties ready. All that's left now is to get these babies ready and get that sauce back in there. Finish it off in the oven. Look at me. Okay. Now that our beef's going, I'm going to start on dessert. Okay. Now that our beef's on, I'm going to start on dessert. Go. What we're looking for is this beautiful brown crust forming. Don't overcook it. The majority of the cooking of this meat is going to be done in the sauce. On the outside, what we're trying to do is basically seal it at this point. Be mindful that these went in at different times, so some may be ready to turn sooner than others. These are coming along just beautifully. Look at those crusts. Now what you'd find is that they're still raw in the middle. That's okay. what we're going to use is that tomato sauce to pull everything together and finish them off nicely.
Yeah.
So at this point we add our tomato sauce back in. So at this point, these have been cooking about 10 minutes or so. We're going to add our tomato sauce back in. So the beef's been cooking about 10 minutes now. It's crusty on both sides. It's ready for the tomato sauce to be added back in.
Nice shadow. Try and do it from the back of the pan if possible.
Okay, ready? How's the shadow in there?
That's good.
So at this point, our meat's been cooking about 10 minutes. It's ready for our tomato sauce to be added back in again. Add it in there nice and gently. Leaving that out.
Yeah.
Just even that out, make sure those are nicely covered. What I like to do at this point is let them simmer for about 5 or 10 minutes and then transfer them to the oven. Preheat your oven 350 degrees. Preheat your oven 350 degrees. 5 minutes, the oven will be ready. These will be ready to go in there. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Then you can add more flavour. Nice fat lines. What you may find is, however, you're going to have difficulty holding that braciole.
Go.
350 degrees, oven's ready to go. Braciole goes straight in. "45 minutes, beautiful.
Wait. Go.
Oven's ready to go. Put our braciole in, another 45 minutes. It'll be falling. 45 minutes later, our braciole's ready. Out of the oven. Oh, look at that.
Leave me long enough.
45 minutes later, braciole's ready. Get it out of the oven. Look at that, beautiful. The way I'm going to serve the braciole today is just on some toasted French baguettes. I've toasted them off nicely.
Wait. Go.
But I'm going to be serving these.
Go.
But I'm going to be serving the braciole today on some nice toasted French baguettes. Just going to serve the braciole. Each portion, 2 pieces. 3 if they're as big as me. Get some of that beautiful sauce. You can see that goat cheese has just gone right through it. Drizzle over the top. Bit of fresh parsley. Grated parmesan. Great. Fresh parmesan. Beautiful. Ready to serve. This is a meal fit for a king. This is a meal fit for a king. This is a meal fit for a king. On the granite? What about on the wood? On the wood table? Looks much better. Oh. Served with your favourite glass of red.
And
Served with your favourite glass of red.
One it is now.